Hello again. Welcome to our final discussion of Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. We finally get to see the long foreshadowed battle between Superman and Batman, and not only does the superhero battle come to a climax, but so does this fictional depiction of the Cold War. The Soviet Union sends a nuclear missile to Corto Maltese after withdrawing their troops from combat. Superman intercepts the missile and is able to explode it away from people so it doesn't kill anyone. But this explosion still sends tons of sand and dirt into the air, blocking out the sun. And this missile is a special kind, a Coldbringer that stops electronics from working. American cities fall into a panic and chaos ensues. Batman keeps Gotham from falling into anarchy by ordering the sons of Batman to fall in line and help take care of the city. Notice the very different approaches of Batman and Superman here. Superman, even though he looks and acts friendlier and dresses in the bright red, yellow, and blue, he works alone. He takes on the burden of stopping the nuclear missile all by himself, the world on his shoulders. Batman, as dark and scary as he is, despite the antisocial loner vibe he gives out, he has to rely on other people. Yes, he's leading them with an iron fist, and yes, some of those people are the not-so-great gang, the Sons of Batman, but he is in contact with the people he's trying to protect, and he needs them in this crisis. He can't do it alone. Which is more heroic, I wonder? Which method gets better results? There's this great scene before Batman arrives with the Sons of Batman. A large fire has broken out, and we get to see a number of civilians' different responses to the fire. Some choose to take action, and some don't. Gordon, desperately looking for his wife in the fire, tries to organize people to fight the fire. He has to take his gun out before people listen. So, at least some people have to be coerced with the threat of violence in order for them to do good. But a hardware store clerk dumps his paint cans empty so they can be used to carry water. Nurses show up to do what they can. Another police officer tries to help a woman escape her car. Heroes. And then we have this guy. You might remember him from last issue. He pushed a panhandler with crutches onto the subway tracks because he thought he might have a gun, and Superman had to save him. Listen to the words he chooses. He was up against a bitch of a deadline, he says. Yes, of course I heard about the bomb, but I've got problems of my own. I've been to church every Sunday since I was a kid, but when push comes to shove, I did what anybody would have. Fires are for the fire department. That's why I pay my taxes. We had ourselves to look after. Now he's obviously a terrible guy with no compassion or empathy for others. The other people interviewed on these pages, the blue-haired woman, the priest, the other man with glasses, were much more sympathetic. Yes, they also overreacted and joined in on the chaos, but they were at least ashamed of what they did afterwards. But the reasoning this guy uses is interesting, because he keeps moving the goalpost, so to speak, but only in ways that favor him. When he says, I've got my own problems, or fires are for the fire department, that's why I pay my taxes, that kind of logic really only holds up when society is functioning as normal. In not so dire consequences, these statements sound almost perfectly reasonable. But then he also says things like, when push comes to shove, I did what anybody would have. With these statements, he's acknowledging that these are exceptional times and society is not functioning as normal, so he should get a pass, although he doesn't extend that pass to anybody else. This miniature nuclear winter in Gotham has rendered the government useless. Cops have no authority and must work individually. Fire departments aren't up and running. This crisis and the government's incapacity tests people. Like the priest. He thought he was one kind of person, a man of God, a good Christian. But the crisis showed him he was a different kind of person than he thought, lacking in some of those good Christian virtues. I think a lot of times we have this idea of ourselves as heroic, but we never get a chance to test that heroism. And then when the test comes, such as in this unexpected crisis, we're caught off guard. How do you know how you'd react in a life or death situation if you've never been in a life or death situation before? Cities across America fall into panic and anarchy, except Gotham, thanks to Batman's organizing. Meanwhile, the president has given Superman the order to take down Batman. A few details about Superman. His origin story is that he is an alien from another planet. When the planet was being destroyed, his parents sent him off as a baby in a spaceship to Earth, where he was adopted and raised by humble American farmers. He gets his power from the sun, and he is almost all-powerful, except against a fictional mineral called kryptonite and apparently nuclear warheads. Batman has to prepare a lot of tech and weaponry for his fight against Superman. He has Robin in a tank, Green Arrow with a synthetic kryptonite arrow, a big robot armor suit thing for himself, and of course, he's taken a drug to induce a heart attack to fake his own death. But why? Because they're old buds and Batman can't bring down an old friend? Is it because Batman knows he can't really defeat Superman? That going underground and quietly building a resistance is the only way Batman can survive? Or is it because, for all of the criticisms Batman has of Superman, deep down he knows that Superman still has a purpose? That the world still needs Superman? In the first video lecture for this text, I said that Batman didn't seem to have any political motivations behind his actions. And indeed, the first issue of this text is very personal and intimate in its central inner conflict between Bruce Wayne and Batman. But by the fourth issue, the story's conflict seems almost entirely political. We're now on the grand scale of international war and a man versus Superman battle that is not only sanctioned, but ordered by the government. How do we make sense of this political conflict? Batman criticizes Superman for his obedience to the government. Yes, you always say yes to anyone with a badge or a flag. Fair enough. Blind obedience is rarely a good quality to have. But what about always saying yes to someone with a bat symbol? Now, I mentioned earlier that Batman is always surrounded by people, unlike Superman. But we also have to acknowledge that his main interaction with these people is giving them orders. He orders Robin around. He orders Green Arrow around. He orders around the sons of Batman and civilians too. Now, I'm not saying his orders are wrong. That's up for debate, although he did save Gotham during the nuclear winter with his orders. But he does seem to require unquestioning obedience from his followers. This particular version of Batman has been read in wildly opposite ways. He's been read as both an anarchist, that's the far left of politics, a world without any government whatsoever, and also as a fascist. That's the far right of politics, the domain of dictators and oppressive tyrants. How can one character stir up exact opposite interpretations? Here's my take. Both of these interpretations apply to Batman because Batman is a hypocrite. He apparently hates government and blind obedience. He sees them as tyranny and oppression. Okay, fine. But what is he planning underground with the sons of Batman? Some kind of coup? A government takeover? Is he anti-government only until he himself gets to run the government? There's a philosophic term called the veil of ignorance. Say you're building a new society with a new government. We all have our own internal biases, so in order to be fair, you wear this veil over your eyes, which makes you ignorant of your standing in that society. You don't know if you're a man or a woman. You don't know what race you are, if you're a citizen or undocumented, if you're a government worker or jobless. Now, you won't make any laws that favor the rich over the poor, because you don't know if you're rich or poor. Your new government rules won't be sexist, because you don't know if you're a man or a woman. So with this veil of ignorance on, would you condone a society run by a violent superhero? Would you approve of a government coup by an underground gang? I can't say I would. Now, if I'm Batman, yeah, I'd go with it because I trust my own judgment and I get to make a world according to my own beliefs. Everyone thinks they know best. But not knowing whether I am Batman or a son of Batman or a civilian with a criminal record, I can't say this kind of system is just. I mean, isn't this the same kind of logic used by this guy when he was trying to justify his outrageous behavior during the fire? We don't actually know what Batman is planning in his underground cave, and Frank Miller doesn't give us much in the way of clues. Maybe it's something else entirely. But Batman The Dark Knight Returns does give us a lot to think about in terms of personal responsibility, politics, what we owe one another in society, and how power and violence play into all of this. That's all I have to say about Batman. I'm excited to hear what all of you have taken away from this book. For next time, we are reading Strong Female Protagonist. It's about another superhero who's given up superheroing because she's decided it's not the best way to go about saving the world. So she enrolls in college to figure out what the best way is. If you don't have a physical copy of the book, you can read it for free online at strongfemaleprotagonist.com. Click on Archive once you get there, and we'll be reading both issues 1 and 2 for Tuesday. Okay, discussion boards. So I record these videos like a week or so in advance, so I haven't been able to comment here about how the discussion boards are going. But now that I've gotten a chance to look at a couple of your discussions, I have to say I really love the conversations that are happening on the discussion boards. You're all doing great for the most part. If you can just keep up the pace from the first week, the rest of the semester should go great. One more thing before I get to the discussion board topic for today. You may have noticed that I updated your participation grade on Canvas recently. Before our switch to digital learning, participation was worth 15 points of your grade. Now it's worth 32 points. And the grade that I put in this week is not set in stone. I will update it every week after the discussion boards are done. I just thought that you'd like to know where your participation points stand. That way you can plan out how many responses you need to do for the rest of the semester. The grade also includes all of your points for in-class participation. So if you didn't participate a lot during our in-person classes, you'll probably have to do the 3 responses per class day in order to get the full points in participation. All right. For the discussion board today, I'd like you to write a journal entry reflecting on Batman The Dark Knight Returns. It doesn't have to be quite as long as the journal entries from before, but do put some thought into it. And you can use the prompts that we used for the earlier journal entries too. How have your ideas about heroes changed? What questions do you have? Things like that. That's the original post for your attendance. For responses for your participation points, ask questions about the original poster's journal entry. You can agree or politely disagree with them, offer up new interpretations of the text, things like that. Lastly, you might have noticed that I uploaded an extra credit assignment to Canvas. You can read those instructions under the Assignments tab on Canvas. It's a short 3-4 page essay worth 4 extra points. There's a list of topics you can choose from, or you can email me if there's another topic that you'd like to write about. It's due April 24th, which is about 2 weeks from now, if you want to get started with that. I look forward to reading all of your thoughts on the discussion boards, and have a good weekend.